Hey hikers, before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know I'm currently enrolling for my signature 12-week program, the Online Summit Program. I'm looking specifically for no more than 10 hikers who want to get strong and pain-free so they can conquer every adventure without having to do hours and hours of exercise every single week. If that sounds like you and you have a significant adventure in your sights, or if you deal with some type of foot, knee, or back issue on the trail, or you simply want to get in a better physical and mental position to be able to properly enjoy your weekly adventures, please shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook with the words, "I'm interested." We can have a chat and see if or how might be a good fit for your goals and if or how you might be a good fit for the program. And then we can go from there. So shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook and let's make it happen. All right, hello guys. Today we are talking to online client Andrea, who's recently come back from the Great Ocean Walk down in Melbourne. And she talks a little bit about her story, about discovering hiking late in life, struggling with knee pain on the trail, and also gives a little bit of insight around her experience with the Hiker's Knee Prevention Program, which she's been working through with Summit Strength. So it's a fantastic episode. I really think a lot of listeners will resonate with her story. So gear yourself up and let's get into it. Okay, so welcome, Andrea. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you on.
Thank you for inviting me, Rowan. I felt really humbled when you asked me to come onto your podcast. Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm very, very excited to have you on because as we were chatting about before the show, you've got a really, really great story. Just we've been training together for a little while, but beyond that, you've got a really, really great story around, your hiking and what you've been doing and what you've been accomplishing. And I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast is going to resonate and get some value out of it. So yeah, really, really looking forward to this chat. So, to kick things off, do you just want to give people a little bit of background about yourself, like who you are, where you're from, like where are you in the world, and what got you into hiking to begin with?
Sure. So I live in Melbourne. So great, we're in lockdown at the moment, so we can't even just go up the road really more than that for a hike. But it is what it is. So I'm in Melbourne and I did my first ever hike at the tender age of about 54. I'm now 58. I turned 58 a few weeks ago. And I fell into it by accident. I was actually doing quite a lot of gym work. I really enjoyed the gym and I was doing powerlifting and things like that. And I got an injury in my elbow. I tore the tendon in my elbow. So my fallback exercise was generally swimming. My background was in swimming as a teenager and I've sort of stuck with that. But being an elbow injury, I couldn't swim either. So I sort of started walking around the streets and I found that awfully boring. And I'm very lucky to live near the Dandenong Ranges in Melbourne. I'm only a 10-minute drive away. And just decided one day I'll go for a bit of a walk up there in the forest. And I went with my daughter. And I saw a lyrebird in the wild, and that just blew my mind. And that was it. I was hooked on hiking, and I haven't stopped since.
Fantastic! I didn't realize it was that recent a thing. Like from my image of you, you're the kick-ass hiker, taking on everything. So, there we go.
And that's the thing. I think when I started this hiking, because I started pretty late, I wasn't someone who went hiking as a kid or even as in my 30s or even 40s. I started when I was 54. But I looked around for where I could or who I could hike with or things like that. And I just felt really intimidated by everyone else that was out there that just seemed so accomplished in their hiking. Really, for me, it was just about going out for a walk in the bush and seeing nature. That's all I wanted it to be. For me, at that point, it wasn't about physical challenge or anything like that. It was just about the sort of mind, body and soul connection, I guess, of being in a natural environment. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in those first, say, 12 months, Do you want to talk through a little bit around the learning process? Like, what did you quickly realize maybe you weren't ready to deal with, and what did you have to learn very quickly? Or were there any things you were not expecting with hiking which you got rewarded with? Do you want to give me a bit of a rundown with
Yeah.
that?
I guess the first 12 months I hiked solo. I did go on a group hike once and just freaked me out. They were way too fast and fit and all that for me. So I went back to solo hiking for probably all up around the first 12 months, I think. I never really, at that point, looked beyond just doing my few hours half-day hike. That's all I wanted to do. I was challenging myself a little bit with hills, but I wasn't really, as I said before, it wasn't really at that point about challenging myself on a physical level. It was more about the just the mental health benefits, I guess, that I was getting from being away from the rat race and just immersed in nature. So that was my first 12 months. And then I guess after that, I started up a group for women only, older women over aged 40, for hiking, walking and other outdoor adventures. And that really attracted a whole range of women with different abilities. So my main idea around starting the group was just for women like me who didn't feel like they'd probably fitted into some of the hardcore hiking groups that just wanted to go for a walk in nature. But what it did do is it attracted women of all different abilities. So that sort of opened up my eyes to what was possible. Whether or not I wanted to do it at that stage, the hardest stuff, probably not, for a whole range of reasons. But I guess it did open up my world to what was possible if I chose to go down that path.
And then as part of that community, as you sort of, got to know more hikers, more, female hikers over 40 in that situation, what were some of the recurring themes that came up, like in the conversations that you had? Were there certain struggles that, that group of people were dealing with pretty regularly, or was there any stories that just, kept on repeating themselves?
Yeah, there were, well, I think obstacles, and I think the obstacles for women getting out into doing this sort of thing, with women, I think it's often in their own mind. They think they can't do something. And I guess a fear of the unknown and a fear of going out in the bush on their own, or, will something happen to them out there, which, I understand that. I don't suffer from that sort of thing myself. I'm fairly confident just going somewhere on my own to discover a new place. But the recurring theme was from a lot of women, I would only go out if I was with other people, I would feel safe. So that was one thing that was really important. So it was important that we provided a really sort of a warm, welcoming and safe environment for women to join in with us. But the other thing too is, as older women, injuries, and just finding that the fitness that you had quite often when you were in your 20s and 30s and maybe 40s was fading away as you got a bit older. I'd say that from my personal perspective, that's what I was finding with me. And that wasn't necessarily, it didn't have to happen. It was something I let happen.
Well, I think that's probably the perfect segue into, our next topic around, obviously we're talking around training on this podcast. So for you, you said, running into a few injuries that you potentially let happen. Do you want to talk us, what were they? How did they come on quickly? Did they come on slowly? How did they sort of present themselves?
My main injury has been my right knee. And I've had that, I'm a bit ashamed to say. I don't even know if I've been honest with you about this, Rowan.
Oh, here we go.
But I would have had my knee injury probably for decades. So I used to do a little bit of fun running in my earlier years. And, back then you used to get up and used to run along the concrete footpath to train for fun runs and things like that. That's just what you did. So it never really got better. And, of course, once I started hiking, that really that was problematic for me, particularly coming down hills. I just really struggled with coming down hills, the pain, and I would generally avoid down hills as much as possible. I hated up hills because fitness-wise it was a struggle, but it wasn't painful, whereas coming down was painful. And I hear a lot of women in the groups that I've walked with talking about their knee pain or their hip pain, but a lot of knee pain. It just seems to be a real common theme in the hiking world is knee pain.
Yeah, well, I can agree there. I've sort of made a living off it myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in those years, obviously you said, been dealing with it for decades, but in those hiking years, as you were, experiencing knee pain on the descents, what type of things did you do to help? Were you being proactive, or were you sort of just dealing with it?
No, I was never proactive, I have to say. I just accepted this was my lot in life, and I will always have knee pain. Having said that, I did invest in poles. I had a foot injury very early in my hiking life, and after that, I thought, no, I need to sort of do what I can to reduce the impact. So I did get some really good hiking poles, and they certainly help coming down the hills, but the knee pain's still there regardless. But look, that's probably as proactive as I ever got, was getting some hiking poles and accepting the fact that I would always have knee pain.
Yeah, fair enough. And, I know that's a common story, because I know with my Mrs. Ali, I've talked about her on the podcast a few times, and she's always dealt with knee pain and from like dancing and netball, and she had a shocker of an experience over in Nepal one time, and we got together, and I'm all about knee pain for hikers, so I was like, I'll help you out. But even with her, I literally had to force her, and I still do have to force her to bring her poles on a trip. I have to pack them in the car myself, or they will not come. And so I know, from someone who has all the tools and has all knows exactly what to do, it's so easy to not be proactive, because we don't really, it's not our most people's natural response, and sort of we just like to get by. And it's a common story I hear, so I hear it every day in my house.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
Oh, definitely not. So we've been training together for a little while now, and we've been sort of trying to deal with and help you towards getting on top of your knee pain and things. Do you want to give a little bit of a rundown? When you were first considering, working through the Summit Strength and through the Hiker's Knee program, what was going through your head? Was there a certain turning point where you're like, you know what, this is enough, I need help? Or was it sort of just an opportunity came up and you were like, all right, see how this goes?
Yeah, more the latter. I'd say it was an opportunity, and I can't even recall, Rowan, how I saw it, but I saw something about your 5-day hiker's knee taster type program thing. So I thought, well, I'll just give that a go. I've got a bit of a hiker's knee, and I just liked the way that you approach things. And it was only 5 days at that point, but I just liked the way you approach things. And I thought, look, maybe I don't have to accept this knee pain. Maybe there is something I can do about it. Let's give that a shot and just and see if that helps. So that was when I then signed up for the 12-week hiker's knee program, which I've just finished my 12th week last week. So I just thought it's maybe if there is something out there, and the fact that I think I saw that you had specifically addressed something that was relevant to me. It wasn't just, here's a hiking training program. It was, this is for hiker's knee. And I thought, well, this is, this is a sign. Maybe I need to give this a go. And that's what I did.
Yeah. And then what was different, in the first little taster on the 5 days, what was different to what you've done previously, whether it was, in your own training in the gym or, way back when you were doing your powerlifting days? What was it? Was it a bit of a different approach?
Absolutely. So the difference from me just going to the gym and, getting a program from a PT, they don't really understand the needs of hikers. And the other thing I noticed, and I still notice doing your programs, is that you don't have to be busting a gut and sweating buckets and all that stuff to be targeting the right areas. I find I get through your programs and I don't feel like I've killed myself to do it, but I can certainly feel the exercises when I'm doing them, which is great. But it just seems to be a more targeted approach to what I needed as an individual. I feel like it was a more tailored program to me and not a generic program that you might get at a gym with a normal PT.
Yeah, nice. And I like that you brought up the point of not having to bust yourself to run yourself into the ground, because I know that's, it's such a popular thing in the fitness world, because some people love it and some people get results from it, but it's definitely not the only way. But I also know, because people love it, and when you're in the gym, and I know a lot of people listening will be in this situation, it's very, very difficult to, if you see someone next to you who's just working their ass off and you're like, oh, maybe I should be working that hard. And it's very, very tough to sort of pull yourself back and trust yourself that, you don't have to work to the limit to get results if you don't have the support in your corner. And I know for myself, like I was in the gym today and, I'm just getting back into my gym training, and it's been about 3 weeks in a row now. So I'm very much easing myself in. Like I am just tasting the waters, trying to get myself ready, like trying to follow my philosophies that I help clients train through. And next to me, over this last week, I've trained next to 3 different trainers who, personal trainers who've obviously been training through the lockdown. They've been working their asses off, just sweating away, lifting heavy weights. And even in my head, even though I know when I teach this stuff, in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe I should be working harder. Maybe I should be pushing much. And I have to pull myself back. So I know how tough that is for certain people, listening to do. So, I'm glad you brought that up, because it is such an important point.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and another point I just wanted to quickly make too was I know when we first chatted about, sort of what I wanted out of the program or what you could put together for me, you have the flexibility to work with what resources I have. So, I wasn't going to the gym, so I didn't have a gym membership. I had a few weights and bands and things lying around the house. So you worked with me with that. Had I not had those, I'm sure you would have found another sort of way that we could have got a program happening. So I really enjoyed the flexibility around from you on how you put the program together for me.
So let's talk specific workouts now. So maybe I would love you to list off maybe 2 of your 2 exercises that you felt like maybe have given you the most benefit out of all the programs that you really, really felt did well, and then maybe 1 or 2 whole workouts in entirety that you felt might have been a bit different to what you'd done, but you felt gave you some very good benefits on the trail.
Okay. So I would say anything that's working the glutes, like the ones that you give me with the monster walks, or the seated abductor. I've just started those yesterday and they were hard, the banded ones.
Yeah.
Balance I'm still working on, as you know. I'm absolutely appalled at my lack of balance. I thought I was okay, but I'm clearly not. And that's something I'm still working on. But I think as I'm getting stronger in certain parts of my body, my balance, it's definitely improving. But, the exercises you're giving me for my balance, I think they're making a huge difference. But look, anything that's any exercise that you're giving me that where I'm sort of pushing off and having to step up onto something, that's made a huge difference, absolutely huge difference in my hiking, and not just my hiking, but just functionally for every day.
Yeah, amazing. And then how about workouts? Because I know we've had a bit of fun with a few different workouts. What do you think has paid off on the trail the most?
The hill sprints. I love the hill sprints with the loaded pack, believe it or not. Hill sprints are awesome. And because I used to struggle up hills, still do, but I don't look at hills now as something to dread. I look at them as something to get excited about, challenging myself on. So the hill sprints with the loaded pack, the stair climbing, which I'm still doing, they're probably, of all of the things, they're probably my favourite, and they've made the biggest difference on the trail. The strength as well. Oh, they all have, Rowan. I don't even know which ones to sort of.
Oh, what a question, hey?
Oh, yeah, because the strength. I only do the 2 strength sessions a week, and they're both incredibly beneficial. For me to be able to do one of those single leg, whatever you call them, rises, when I couldn't even move from the chair when I started. I mean, that just shows how far I've come. I can do a few of those now. So whatever exercises you've given me to that I can achieve that's been awesome.
Oh, great. So for anyone listening, that exercise that Andrea just mentioned, the single leg rise is a really, really good test for any hiker, whether you have knee pain or not. And basically what it involves is you finding a chair or a bench or a couch or something in which you're sitting down and your knees are about, when your feet are on the floor, your knees are about 90 degrees. And then basically put one foot in the air. And so you're just on one foot, and then you just try and stand up and then go back down and stand up and go back down. And you do as many as you can. Now for this, it's a really, really great test of single leg stability. It's a really, really good test of single leg strength, which is very, very relevant for hiking. And it does have some pretty specific markers in regards to knee pain prevention. When Andrea first started doing the training, it is a very, very difficult move. And, in the first assessment, she didn't get any out, which is pretty common. But then after the 12 weeks, I think she ended up doing 3 or 4 at the end of the 12-week program, which might not sound like much to you on the podcast, but believe me, that is a big, big, big difference. And if you test yourself out and do this assessment and do this exercise and you can't get any, I think that's a really, really good indicator that you probably want to be doing more strength training. And then ideally, you can just keep on progressing it. And if you want to know the end point of where anyone should be landing for knee pain prevention, you can shoot me a message or shoot me an email and I'll give it to you privately, just so I don't scare anyone off. But that's a really good assessment for you.
Yeah, it's a beauty, that's for sure. And it's still not easy, but I can't believe I can do them now. So it is a massive improvement. Yeah.
And then obviously this change hasn't happened overnight. It has been a process and you have been very diligent and very consistent with it. So just so people get a bit of an insight into what sort of timeline it worked for you, so someone who very much, put the effort in, when did you sort of first notice the changes in potentially going up hills and feeling a little bit more happy there? And then when did you notice a little bit of a change when it came to the knee?
Okay, so the going up the hills, I have to say, I felt that happen fairly quickly. And when I say quickly, I would say within about a month, to be honest. It felt like, I think because I was consistent with my training and still am consistent with my training, it kicked in pretty quickly for me. So I remember doing a hike. It was a local hike that I do sometimes. That I used to stop going up there. When I went up this particular hill, I'd probably stop 2 or 3 times, sometimes more. It wasn't a super long hill, but it always defeated me almost. I reckon within about a month or 6 weeks, I was going up that without stopping. I mean, look, still puffing and still finding it hard, but not feeling it in my feeling it more in puffing as opposed to any weakness in my legs. My legs just felt strong, like they could keep going. So that happened pretty quickly, I have to say, and it continues to improve. The reduction in the knee pain took a little bit longer, and it's still a work in progress. But I will say that it's unless I was doing something particularly steep descent on unstable terrain, I can generally get down to the bottom of a hill and not feel any pain in my knee. That is using my poles, but even before using my poles, I would still have pain going down. So I would say probably around the 8 to 10 week mark that I did it and didn't really feel any pain in the knee at all. So to me, that's pretty quick. I do still get a twinge every now and then on a certain movement I might do, but it's not this constant pain that I can feel with every step going down a hill. It might be just if I've jarred myself a bit, on a rock or something, a little bit of pain might shoot through. But yeah, so I reckon that's closer to the 3-month mark.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because again, like the reason I asked you that, because I sort of had a good idea around the timelines there already. But I know for any type of training, you can improve your fitness pretty quickly. If you do the right things, fitness can improve, relatively quickly if you're consistent. When it comes to the pain side of things and the prevention, obviously we're not at the end point now. There are still work to do. And it did take, quite a few weeks of consistent work to get to that point where you started noticing even some differences. And that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see from people who reach out to me, or at least just in the general gym environment, in the sense that they'll get a program, they'll get some exercises, they'll get some guidance from a physio, whatever it may be. And they'll go gung-ho for 2 weeks. They won't feel any better. And they'll be like, this is, not worth my time. And then see you later. And, it just goes recurring. The same thing for, I think, many people listening on this podcast have downloaded the free 12-week hiker's knee prevention guide, which is just a pre-made program which can help with people. And the people who've gone through that entire process have messaged me and said, that's actually work quite well. But I know the majority of people don't stick to the whole 12 weeks and don't see the results, not because the information isn't going to help them, they just haven't been consistent. And that's why on that situation, I do not charge a cent for that, because I know that's exactly what's going to happen. And that's sort of where the support and the accountability and the community comes in. But I just wanted to make a point of that, because it's such an important thing to know when you're going down a pain reduction journey.
Look, Rowan, I think you hit on a really good point. Had I just done that and not signed up for the program and had the support and the, I know that I sort of whiz off messages to you quite often, but it's, for me, that's made a huge difference. I need that. I need a little bit, someone that's, you're not, I'm keeping myself accountable. You're not keeping me accountable, but you're certainly just that extra that I get from being a signed up member and the support, the tips. Like if I send a message to you or make a comment on one of my workouts about, a particular exercise, I know that you'll look at it and you'll get back to me with some sort of a suggestion or a tip or an alternative or something like that. So I know that I feel like you're invested in my success, which is great. And that really makes a difference. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good to hear, because as you said, I'm definitely, I very much enjoy seeing success from my clients, and it's something that really, really I'm very passionate about and I am very invested in. So it's good to hear that from the other side it's coming off.
Good. Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So before we wrap the episode up, we've been chatting for a while now, my gosh, but let's talk about the Great Ocean Walk. So you've just come back from that, about a week or so. That was probably timed up at about week 11, week 12 of the program, which was pretty well timed. So give us the rundown. How was the trip? How did it all play out? How did each day go? What were the challenges? What did you enjoy? What did you love? Just for anyone who might be considering that walk.
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying I went with a friend of mine, Jackie, and we didn't do the whole, I think it's 7 or 8 days. we only we were time limited just for personal reasons. So we did. God, I can't remember what we did now. Three days, I think it was, of the Great Ocean Walk, which is in Victoria. And it came about because I had lost my job due to COVID and I had some time off, but I didn't know how much time I was still going to have off. And I've been wanting to do this walk for a long time. So we really only booked it, a few weeks out from when we started to do it. Well, from when it started. So now, had I attempted that walk, I think, before starting doing the program, I would have really struggled with fitness, because even though it wasn't super challenging the days we did as far as terrain went, there were some bits that were quite difficult. The first day we did was 24 kilometres, and that was combining days 1 and 2 if you were doing the whole walk. And I'd never walked beyond 17 kilometres before. That was my upper limit. And only 6 months ago, I would always say to people, oh, I don't like walking past, beyond 10 kilometres. 10 kilometres is my limit. I don't really enjoy anything beyond that. And it was only recently that I've come to work out that I didn't enjoy it because I didn't have the fitness for it. So to go on this walk, I think our first day was 24 kilometres. The second day was, I think it was around 15, and I think the last one was about 18. That was huge from where I'd come from only months earlier. But the other thing I noticed on that walk was that every day there were sections where there'd be lots and lots and lots of stairs going up. They'd either be stairs made of rock or stairs made of wood or things like that. And they would have absolutely killed me once upon a time. But I got to the point where I was really looking forward to them. When I saw them, I'm like, yeah, another stair challenge. This is great. So the walk itself, for anyone that wants to do it, look, we didn't camp. A lot of people will camp the whole way. The campsites are beautiful. We're in the middle of winter here in Melbourne. It's not a great time to be camping. So Jackie and I stayed in cabins. I think we did 2 nights, 3 days walking, 2 nights on the trail. And we had 2 nights in a cabin in the national park. So that was beautiful. The challenges for me were probably that first day, just getting through to that 24-kilometre finish, when I'd never done, it was 7 kilometres beyond anything I'd ever done before. Mentally, I mean, physically I was tired, but, mentally I just got to a point where I'd had enough. So I think if you've been some sort of a athlete in your life, and I was a competitive swimmer in my younger years, I think that mental strength kicks in eventually when you get to that point where you just think, well, you've got a bit of resilience. So that was good. Challenges. So those are the challenges. Loved every minute of it. It was just beautiful. The coastline is beautiful. The forest is beautiful. Everyone else sees lots and lots and lots of koalas. We saw one, and it was facing the other way. So that was a bit disappointing. But nutrition, which thank you, Rowan. You sent me a thing for nutrition before I went on what sort of things would help for snacking, particularly snacking and lunch on the trail. So I followed that, and that was really, really helpful. I didn't feel like I was flagging in energy at all, which was good.
Do you want to go into that a little bit more? Because I'm sure people will be interested. Like, what did you eat? What was the changes you made? What sort of helped there?
Yeah, I think it was just more looking at what sort of carbs I could get into me on the trail. I was a bit slapdash before, like when I'd just go for a day hike. I didn't really give much thought to what I might throw in my pack for the day. This time I was a little bit more. I was more prepared. I took some things that were fairly high carb. I had the scroggin that I made up, the mix of things that you suggested might be good. and also making sure that I was eating every couple of hours, whereas I wouldn't have done that before. I would have pretty much waited till the end of the hike and maybe ate then, because I don't actually get hungry on a hike. I never get hungry on a hike. It's usually once the hike's finished that I get hungry. So when you sort of said I should be having X amount of carbs every few hours, I thought, geez, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But I did it, and it absolutely worked. I just wasn't tired. I felt like I could have kept going.
That's great to hear. Yeah, it's that
yeah.
a funny thing with the nutrition that you can eat anything and you can survive and you can get through a hike and all of that. But if you make a few small changes like that, just trying to eat more than you may think and just eating the right things as well, you can really just push up that performance and that comfort level quite a bit. And it's something, that I'm always going on about and to everyone on the programs. But I'm so glad you put into action. That's great to hear.
Absolutely made a huge difference, because like I said, I often won't eat on a hike. I mean, I might have a little snack, but knowing that I was going to have a full day ahead of me and that I had to I packed my little snacks in the morning before we went, and I think I'm not going to be able to eat all this, but I did. I made myself eat it, and it worked beautifully. It really worked well.
How good. Okay, I'm not going to take up too much more of your evening because I know you've had a long day. I do have one more question that I wanted to dig into that you mentioned previously. So you said on the longer days with your, got to the point where it was getting tough, and then you sort of drew on sort of that mental strength from your swimming days. Are there any specific little tricks or strategies or little things you do to help in that situation, or is it purely just a sticking with the gritting it and bearing with it?
Yeah, pretty much that, I think. You can't stop. So that option's out, because, you just can't stop. You've got to get to where you've got to get to. So for me, it's just about being practical and seeing things in those terms. My feet were hurting a lot because I just made a bit of an error with socks and a bit. I won't go into it here, but a bit of a mishap with orthotics. So, but my socks, I had a bit of a problem that first day. So I've still got a bit of a bruised toenail, but I was in a lot of pain there as well. So it was that I was battling a lot toward probably the last 5 kilometres or so. But I just thought, well, I can't walk barefoot to get to where I need to go. I'm tired, and I'm probably more tired because I'm battling this foot thing. But for me, it's just about being practical, because you just can't stop in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to come and save you. It's up to you. And it's not like I was in danger. But, it was just a matter of, well, I've got to get there, and I'm tired, but just think how awesome it's going to be when we get there and we can put our feet up and get the boots off and feel really proud of ourselves. So I don't know. I guess it's just trying to think practically, really. And, as I said, if you've had an athletic background at some point in your life, you can really just draw back on that. And, I had a coach back in my youth who used to say pain is gain and rest is rust. And I know that's not the way it is now, but that's what I grew up with, that messaging. So, it's still sort of ingrained in me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I know that's not good now these days, but that's how it used to be. Was it quantity over quality back then? Was the training sort of ethos?
No, I know how that goes, and I'm sure plenty of people are nodding their heads to that, because we've all been told something like that in the past.
Yeah.
How good. Well, I think we've covered, you shared so much value today in this episode, and I think a lot of the things that you've said are really, really, as I said at the start, are going to resonate with quite a few hikers out there, because I know a lot of people go through the same struggles and sort of had the same process, and it's great that you've sort of given a bit of insights into how you've gone about it and where you've come from, such an amazing way in, a short amount of years as well. It was really, really fantastic. So I'm glad for my own sake to hearing a little bit more about your story. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to come
Not a
on, Andrea.
problem.
I really, really appreciate it. It's been such a pleasure training you and being part of this process, but I really appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit of love with all the listeners.
Oh, thank you. And as I said, I feel humbled that you asked me. And, if I can sort of help someone else just at least think about the fact they don't necessarily need to live with the pain that they might have had for a long time, it's absolutely worth giving it a shot.
So thank you so much for listening today, guys. I really do hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I really do hope you've gotten a little bit of inspiration from hearing Andrea's story. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the episode, at the moment, I'm currently enrolling clients for my signature program, the Online Summit program. Now, if you were in a situation like Andrea, where you're looking at preparing for a bigger adventure, or you're struggling with a bit of knee pain or back pain or whatever it may be, and you were looking for help, at the moment, I'm looking for no more than 10 hikers who want to get strong and pain-free so they can conquer every adventure without having to do hours and hours and hours of training every single week. If that sounds like you, please find me on Facebook or Instagram and send me a private message with the words "I'm interested," and we can have a chat, see if the program's suited for you, whether it will work for you, and we can go from there. So thank you very much for listening, and make it happen if you need a little bit of help.